Okay, I'd like to call to order the City of Monona's Sustainability Committee for Thursday, November 21st, 2024. We've got quorum, Thor's got the roll.
Yep.
I'll take a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting, which was October 3rd.
So moved.
Moved by Alder
Second.
Bernstein, a second by Tim. Are there any changes that we need to make? Any?
left my name
See
on the
anything?
group present.
Oh, no, let's add,
Again.
so we need to amend those too.
Sue, I'm not trying to erase you.
No, gosh, no, that was completely.
I apologize.
There
That's
we go.
embarrassing.
But I proved it. I mean, it's.
You were there, you were here. I remember you were here. Anything else that anyone caught? All right, hearing none, all in favor of approving the minutes with the amendment Sue mentioned, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no, motion passes. All right, great. We do have an appearance tonight and I'm,
We should do order of business. Maybe.
I would like to take, well, we don't have any appearances in that case. But under new business, number 6, we do have a presentation and we've got a guest with us, Allison, who I'm sure she has nothing better to do with her evening than to sit and listen to our committee. I'll take a motion to take the agenda out of order. A second by Sue, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, great. So let's just pop down then to a little later on in the agenda, number 6, and listen to our guest who will be talking about the Wisconsin Local Government Climate Coalition. Welcome, Allison. It's nice that you're here.
Great. No, and I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for having me. So yeah, Thor, I sent you a presentation. I wondered, should I share it on my screen? Would that be the best way to do it?
Yeah, if you want to control the slides, I'll make you a
Okay.
co-host here so you can share.
Okay, great. It looks like, yeah, I can.
All right.
There we go. Okay, let me choose the right screen there. Okay. All right. So can you all should be able to see that now, I think?
Yep.
Great. Okay. Yeah, so as was said, my name is Allison Carlson. I'm the executive director over at the Wisconsin Local Government Climate Coalition. So I put together a presentation just to talk a little bit about who we are, what being a member looks like, and some of our priorities. So you all can think about and consider whether it makes sense for the city of Monona to become a member. And then also happy to answer any questions that you might have or comments kind of along the way through the slides, whatever makes sense. So please feel free to interject as I move along. So I'll go to the next slide. This is our mission statement. So our coalition provides a platform for members to collaborate on overcoming the barriers to decarbonization, trying to accelerate solutions, and then ensuring the benefits of a clean energy economy are distributed to everyone throughout the state. So that's basically kind of what we stand for, us in a nutshell, and what we're trying to work towards, working with members working together. The history of Wisconsin Local Government Climate Coalition, and yes, we have a little bit of a long acronym, WLGCC, that we use quite a bit. So it started as just a group of local government staff, 3 across the state, that were talking and saying, you know, it probably makes sense for us to collaborate more on what we're doing, because local governments are constrained in terms of capacity. We're all doing different things. We really should be collaborating and learning from each other. Maybe there are ways that we can partner together to find resources. And we just have a unique experience when you think about clean energy and climate change and seeing those impacts directly in our communities. And that voice should be heard. So let's create this coalition. So started as 3, and this is our current membership. You can see in the map. We recently added Rock County to the coalition, and we represent about 40% of the residents in the state. In most cases, we're flexible in terms of who is the member representative. It could be a local government staff person, but depending on what works for your community, it could also be a sustainability committee representative. So it does kind of run the gamut in terms of who's the member rep and participates in our meetings. So let's see the value of our membership. So we facilitate local government voices on climate and clean energy policies and programs. Also provide resources and tools to achieve deeper impacts across communities, and then create that platform for local governments to learn from each other, that peer-to-peer learning and information sharing. So those are kind of the key components of what you get out of a membership. And I'll talk a little bit about our strategic priorities and what our members are working together on. So members came together about a year ago, actually, and we honed in on these 5 key priorities that will stay relatively constant, but have the opportunity probably every couple of years to update them. So we can be able to shift depending on what's going on and what's important to local governments across the state. But the first one there is decarbonizing buildings. So thinking about strong building codes, thinking about the focus on energy program in the state, ensuring that's strong, and also having access to data and the information that's needed to be able to understand what opportunities are. Greening the grid. So this has a lot to do with our relationship with utilities and the Public Service Commission. We do quite a bit of work at the Public Service Commission related to their programs, but then also on the regulatory side too, they'll have different investigations and dockets that open, for example, related to net metering, where we want to make sure that the local government voice is heard, and what's important to local governments related to different topic areas. Thinking about utilities have their own clean energy goals in place, and we want to make sure that they're accountable to those, and PSC is doing what they can, because ultimately if the utilities don't reach their goals, it'll be really hard for local communities to reach their goals as well. So we pay quite a bit of attention to the work going on there. Decarbonizing transportation, so thinking about a robust EV charging network, and also, how can we make regional public transportation solutions more robust? And then our last 2 are a little bit newer, but also found when we were having member discussions pretty important to members. So implementing people-centered and climate-smart land use policies, and then promoting resilience and natural solutions as well. So these are our key priorities and kind of how we organize ourselves, and then how we make progress together. So these are just some example activities. So we organize our work groups around those strategic priorities. We've got 5 work groups. So we might be bringing in experts from state agencies or other organizations to do webinars for us, and have some learning opportunities there. Sharing resources. There's a lot of times where maybe just casually members will ask each other, well, do you have an example of this or that? How did implementation on this really go? What would you have changed? So that can be really helpful. Identifying state and federal funding opportunities, and then where it makes sense for us, weighing in on state policy or regulatory issues. We don't lobby. We're not involved with legislation, but we do kind of track if new bills were to come up, just understanding, okay, what does this mean? How might it affect local governments and local communities? But yeah, we don't directly lobby. And also providing feedback or input on programs. For example, when the Public Service Commission was doing some program design around the home energy rebates program, one of the federal programs that will come out and offer rebates to low-income customers to put in heat pumps and things like that. We provided some comments. Members got together and said, okay, how does this design look? Do we think it'll work, based on our experience? And we provided some comments to the PSC on that. Yeah, I think that's kind of a lot of the, how we work together, a lot of collaboration and just information sharing. Um, and then a little bit about what membership would look like. So, we understand, and as you could probably see from the map that we had, we represent a lot of different communities, a lot of different sizes, all across the state. So we understand that communities are going to be, everyone's going to be at a little bit of a different point in terms of their climate and clean energy journey. And we want to kind of meet you where you're at. You don't necessarily have to have clean energy goals in place at the moment or a plan in place. We want to be able to kind of accommodate you and understand what you need. But just in terms of some different, some typical membership engagement points that we have over the course of a month and a year. We have monthly member meetings that are about an hour each. We've got work group meetings that are typically, every other month, and then monthly webinars. We do have some ad hoc meetings, as needed, and do some information sharing over email and newsletters. And then if specific kind of time sensitive opportunities might come up, then we'll put in an alert out to our members. Oh, and I should mention too, on October 15th, we had our first in-person members summit in Appleton. And I think members got a lot of value about that, just being able to see each other in person and have some good small group discussions, make some connections. So that was really a great opportunity too. And we plan to have a in-person members summit each year going forward. See, and then we'll talk a bit about resources and support. We've got, I think, a lot of exciting opportunities coming up that are have just kind of kicked off or underway or are about to launch. So the one I want to kind of focus in on as well is the ICLEI carbon emissions tracking tool. So I've got another couple slides on that we can talk about, but just to quickly kind of go through some of these other ones. So the Resilient and Efficient Buildings Municipal Support Program. So that launched this summer. That's through Department of Energy funding, and Slipstream is the lead on that. So WLGCC is heading up this municipal support program. And with that, we've got about 25 communities that are participating in it. And we offer, we're organizing around, well, what building codes kind of are what they are. And local governments can't go beyond those building codes. But despite that, there are different levers that local governments can pull and different things that you can do to make progress on your own buildings internal operations, and then community-wide. So we've identified some different strategies, and we're having meetings about those strategies and then developing some different resources that could be useful to communities related to that. I'll skip over the ICLEI thing now and just do a quick overview over for the other ones below. So local government greenhouse gas reductions playbooks. So this will be launching soon. We're just selecting a consultant to do some of this work for us, but it's focused on smaller and medium-sized communities, and what would be a few key strategies, high impact strategies that they could take to reduce energy use, reduce greenhouse gas reductions in their communities. And once those like 5 to 7 strategies are identified, then this consultant will be producing 2 to 4 playbooks to kind of just go over, bridge that gap between planning and implementation and say, okay, well, what do you really need to do? What's the soup to nuts? Who do you need to be talking to? What state agency processes do you need to be aware of? How do you approach this? So it's some of that information that you don't, it's not always in one place. So trying to consolidate that a little bit in these playbooks. So I'm pretty excited about that. And then we also are in process, we're working with Elevate on producing a local government sustainability policies and practices database that members will have access to. So right now we have folders in files in a Google Drive, and that's all pretty well maintained and organized, but still it can be a little difficult to navigate. So we want to have a tool that local governments can just, our members can just go into be able to search on some key terms and then bring up, oh, here's an example of a policy from this community. And here's what they thought about it. Here's some resources on this or that related to EV charging. So just try to serve up a little easier some of those key resources for communities as they're going about just trying to figure out, well, what strategies they're going to pursue. So now I will go to a couple slides on the ICLEI greenhouse gas inventories project. This is through Energy Innovation Grant funding from the Public Service Commission. So City of Stevens Point was a sponsor on this for us. And then obviously we're partnering with ICLEI USA on it. And this is actually, I hope this isn't too blurry for you guys. It's a slide that I took from one of ICLEI's presentations, but it goes over a little bit, why a greenhouse gas inventory is important. Some of you might be familiar with this already. And an inventory basically looks at the different sectors of the economy. Residential and commercial buildings, industrial, energy, transportation, just to understand, okay, where are your current greenhouse gas emissions coming from? What are the big ones? What do we need to be paying attention to? And where can we best direct our efforts? So it provides that baseline and some good data for you. And then from there, you can do other things like forecasting is a piece of it, setting targets, looking at different scenarios. So this is something that we're going to be offering our members, and then we also have some spots available for non-members too, which is something that we talked to City of Chithor about back a few weeks ago. So it'll be there will be a training cohort on greenhouse gas inventories at the community-wide level. And then after that, once the inventories are done, there will be the opportunity to do a cohort on thinking about planning and mitigation strategies that you might want to pursue. So it's kind of a two-piece. And then this slide just goes a little bit over what the support and services that ICLEI will be providing specifically. So I mentioned those two training and learning cohorts. And then that would be through ICLEI's ClearPath tool, which several of our communities, our member communities, already use. So it's something that's been kind of vetted by our membership already. And there are other tools out there, but they thought ICLEI had kind of the best functionality in that and kind of built-in assumptions and things like that. So that's why it was chosen for this. And then ICLEI also has a number of other resources that you'd have access to, office hours. And another thing that we're going to be doing through this grant is WLGCC staff will be providing some support to navigate the data collection and request process. So where we can kind of streamline the data collection for communities, we're going to do that. So for example, putting in a data request to your energy utility, rather than having communities do that one by one and having to navigate that process, we're going to collate those requests and do them all at once to the different utilities. So that's one example. There will be other opportunities to kind of streamline as well. So that really takes off a little bit of the administrative burden on folks. This is a little bit more about the municipal support program, which I mentioned. And then I think I've got in your slide deck a bit more on the playbooks here. But then the other slide, just a little bit on how to join. If you are interested, it's a pretty easy process. So we have we're meeting now. We have a draft resolution, a template that you can use and fit to your needs. And then that would be approved by your governing body, your city council. You'd appoint someone, typically a staff position, but you could also list a sustainability committee person as well, depending on, or you could list both, depending on, what works for you all. And then your membership begins. There's no fee to joining the coalition. And I think that's all I had. I'll leave up this slide in case there's anything that you all would like to discuss, about Monona, or if you have any questions for me.
Thanks, Allison. That was a great presentation and really awesome what you guys have done in just a few years. A couple questions came to mind just as you were talking. You mentioned that you guys have staff that helps the working groups. How are you guys funded? You have some grants, I imagine?
Mhm. Yeah. So we are grant funded. So we have a combination of foundation grants. So public charities that provide our funding. That started as our seed funding, and still, a rather a larger portion of our overall kind of pie of funding. And then we have federal and state grants as well. So we have that energy innovation grant that we've got from the Public Service Commission. We also have some DOE funding, some EPA funding. So that's kind of our mix between federal and state grants and foundation grants.
And then, just thinking about our work in being a member, which obviously it sounds like this would be something we would aspire to do. I think I can speak for everyone. But so it would look like one meeting from one of our representatives for the monthly meeting, and then one of our team member would be in one working group. We had like 5 or 6 working groups, and that's a 2-hour meeting. And so one of our team members goes to one of those, but then there are 3 or 4, we don't have a representative in. Is that right?
Yeah, and so we do have some members that their capacity right now only really allows them to attend the monthly member meeting.
Okay.
And that's okay if that's where you want to start. But the work group meetings are a good way to really have input into what we pursue and to help shape what resources we go after and the work we do. But you don't have to attend all of those work group meetings. It's people have things come up, and that's fine. Sign up for as many work groups as you want to, or just one, or think about it a little bit.
Allison, can you say again some examples of the types of work groups that there are?
Yeah, and maybe I can go back to, sorry, I'm just going to scan through my slides again. So our strategic priorities. So we have a decarbonizing buildings work group, greening the grid work group. We've combined our transportation and land use policies work group. We just had a lot, when people signed up, there was a lot of crossover in them. And so we thought we'd combine them. They complement each other a bit as well. And then we have a resilience and natural solutions work group. So 4 in total.
So theoretically, folks from Monona and from all member communities would be working on these 5 priorities.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Allison, how did you find us? How did we find you? How's recruitment going? Seems like every city in the state should be part of your membership. Why are some not? Are we early on the wave, or are there barriers that have stopped other people you've given this pitch to join that we're not foreseeing?
Sure. Yeah. And I think how we found each other was maybe Brad was speaking with Brad Braun, if I'm saying his name correctly, had a conversation with Kathy Coons in Dane County. I think that was perhaps the connection, because Kathy is on our board of directors. She's the director over at Dane County's Office of Energy and Climate Change. So I believe that's how the connection was made. Yeah, I would say, and I'll go back here to our map. You'd probably be like, maybe in the middle wave, not quite early, but we still have a ways to go. I think we aspire to really be a true statewide organization. You can see on the map we're maybe missing some in terms of the northern communities, and then in some of the more rural areas. I think in our membership right now, we've really captured the large and mid-sized cities across the state, and a lot of those counties in which they're surrounded. and then to respond to your question about, well, why some communities might hesitate a little bit. I mean, it could be just capacity. Not that we demand, a lot of communities. It's also just one more thing. So, and some, if it's a real small community, they just don't have the bandwidth for an additional, next thing. So that could be, I mean, and when you get into smaller communities, more rural areas, maybe there's a little bit of hesitation. We do have climate in our name. So, that some local politics could, enter the conversation there. So, that could come into play as well, at times. We do have communities where the vote on the city council was split a little bit. So it's a lot of times it's a unanimous, entry into the membership. Sometimes there are some holdbacks, but that's happened. So it's not a particularly unique situation. Yeah, I feel like I'm rambling a little bit here. So let me just
No,
pause
that's
and
perfect.
see.
I was just wondering how people got to be in or not. So thank you. That's helpful.
Yeah.
So Allison, Monona has never participated before, is that correct?
Nope.
I do notice, looking at the map, that there's a little bit of clustering that happens, right? So there's probably a little bit of word of mouth advertising that happens. I mean, obviously a lot of our neighbors in Monona are a part of your organization already. And I think there is a lot to be said for collaborating with folks in your region, just to be communicating with one another, sharing ideas, successes and failures, and learning from each other's experience. So I can appreciate how that may have influenced the development of your organization so far, and maybe helps sort of lend a little leverage to why Monona might be interested in participating as well.
Sure. Yeah. I think that's an accurate read of the map. Yeah, there are a lot of Dane County communities that have decided to join. A lot of our growth has been by word of mouth. To date, we haven't done a lot of real active recruitment, but lately we have been, especially with some of the grants that we've been taking on, it's spurred more interest. So I have been having a lot of potential member discussions over the last few months. So hopefully over going into 2025, we just continue to grow our membership. Yeah, happy to take any other questions that folks might have. I have time.
Hearing none, why don't we just move on? So Allison, we've got it on our agenda that we'll later be discussing membership as part of our meeting tonight. So
Okay.
you're free to stay around until then. Otherwise, I know that Thor will be getting back to you. I'm confident that he will.
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you so much again for having me. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I hope your discussion goes well. I think I am going to sign off. I've got a 12-year-old to take to hockey practice, so I'm gonna go do that. But yeah, everyone have a good rest of your night, and please do reach out if you have any other questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Allison.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay,
you.
thank you. Bye.
That's great. All right, let's just jump back up then. Number 5, unfinished business. Discussion and possible action on the resident tree buying program. So this is a project that Ken, Tim, Thor, and I have been meeting to put together. I guess we can't make any formal announcements. We applied for a grant. We've had some preliminary positive feedback on that. We'll have more information to share with everyone in a couple weeks. Next steps, assuming the grant works out, next steps would be to meet with Jake, Parks and then the Public Works and see what happens. So I would ask that members keep in mind. If you know of people in the community who have a passion for trees and would like to help plant more trees in Monona, by all means, please share those names with Thor or with me or Tim or Ken, because that's really where we get the power to make change, is by bringing in more people. And when we only have a work group that consists of committee members, we're limited in the size because we can't have quorum, right? But we can have unlimited non-committee members in our meetings, so. Right,
In our meetings of tree specific.
tree specific people,
quorum,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
We need a name.
We need a better name, yeah, yeah.
Do we have people that would be able to help with placement of trees if we're going into private locations that could be,
Yeah, so
that should be carefully handled?
So as the proposal stands now, when a citizen expresses interest, jump in if I'm misstating anything, when a citizen expresses interest, there would be a site visit by someone from Public Works, if it's in the right of way, someone from Parks, if it's on private property. And during that site assessment, the resident would be, coached or guided toward tree placement and variety and species. Did that answer your question?
I think so. I'm
Okay.
just, thinking in terms of growth of trees and
Yeah.
storms and other
Right,
hazards.
right.
Just it gets to be kind of a complicated issue, and I didn't know if there would be liabilities or
No.
whether, it just could raise issues later.
The city's not liable for anything.
A private person who just was coaching his neighbor on who knew something about trees, but I'm just wondering, is there any possibility?
Oh, are you saying, what if like someone from the city advises the resident to plant in a certain area
And
and then
then
because of that,
something-
something goes wrong?
Something happens, yes, right.
I didn't think of that. I just can't, I don't know. Maybe we should look into it. I don't know. I just don't even think.
I
yeah,
know, it's
I-
a difficult.
Right, can we predict if a tree's gonna fall in 30 years?
No,
Not
yeah.
gonna plant trees because of that?
I mean, it's not like the city person is gonna be forcing the resident to do anything whatsoever. They're just gonna be saying,
But you want an
It's a-
informed.
It's a good point, but it is a good point, I don't mean to,
yeah,
no,
yeah,
no.
yeah.
but maybe we are thinking about the citizen having some skin in the game in terms of purchasing this tree at a bulk price. City is gonna be providing a lot of services in terms of transportation and help, but in the purchase agreement, there may be something about liability.
Sure, that's a really good point. It certainly doesn't hurt. Yeah,
So we should draft some language around that.
You're
Yeah,
right.
it's a good reminder.
We should.
So we'll share, we'll work the city attorney as we draft up an application or a purchase agreement and make sure there aren't liability concerns or that we have a proper waiver in there.
thanks for bringing that up.
Well, I've been thinking about my own two trees,
Yeah.
both of which were damaged and had major branches fall. If they had fallen, a foot different, I'd be without a roof.
Yeah.
At all,
Yeah.
on both sides of my house.
And
So
you-
it's just like, it's
Yeah,
it's a big issue.
Yeah, and
It
you-
could be a big issue, and these trees were, well, we planted the one in the front yard, so
Sure.
it's been less than 40 years there, but the one in the back was there when we.
a good point. You never know how people are gonna respond or react or, yeah, okay.
Well, that,
Or what-
that realistically is gonna be a risk on a large number of properties in the city of Monona, right? We have many homes that don't have huge yards. If you
That's
plant
right.
a tree somewhere in that property, there's always gonna be a chance that something might fall on a car or, a shed or a house.
Yeah.
But I think by providing them with an assessment done by a forester and helping select an appropriate species, that risk is greatly minimized than if the homeowner was just going out and randomly picking something from a garden center by themselves and dropping it in some location in their yard. So,
We might just look into other communities that have done this. Was it Cambridge or
Cambridge.
Cottersgrove?
Cambridge and
just
Watertown,
see
yeah.
if they have
or
an
a couple.
example
language.
purchase agreement.
Yeah, yeah,
And there could be little hints going into it with with the tree, like make sure you have. Just to check your tree or prune it regularly so you don't have as much likelihood of getting. That kind of, I don't know,
Yeah.
just, it's hard to say.
Are we gonna do just like a little campaign before planting season to recruit folks that are interested? Yeah. I don't know why I asked.
Yeah, no,
I know
that's okay.
happening.
That's okay.
Of course,
Yeah.
that's gonna happen.
But Jamie, like, as you know, you've been so involved in like the Leaf campaign, right? So it's just because of the quorum thing, which is so frustrating. And so counter, like, I mean, it's the opposite of being productive, it really gets in the way of being productive. But like, if I would love all of you to be like on this committee, but like, if you know other people that could be on this committee, because to your point, it's gonna take people to like create that material, distribute that material, the marketing, the advertising, the promotion of it, how do we get the word out? Also, though, want to reiterate, this is just a pilot program, so we're only
Yeah.
aiming for 20 trees in the ground. And we've intentionally made it very small so we can test the procedure on a small scale.
Can we start with a little recruitment of just the subcommittee members and then? Yeah,
So we were in our group conversations, that's kind of where we were thinking too, like
Yeah.
just reach out
Who
to
would be
people
interested?
that we kind of already know are gonna be interested, and
yeah,
like the Bee and Butterfly Brigade members might love to, jump at the chance to work on this sort of project.
do they need to be Monona residents?
I don't think so.
You'd like tap into UW Forest and Wildlife Ecology undergrad students or grad students who want a little support and like consult or experience in consulting. That
Could you
It's a good
text, or could you text or email the name of, what did you say, UW Forest and Wildlife, what did you say, Jamie?
UW Forest and Wildlife Ecology Department.
Okay. And do you have a contact person there?
Yeah, I do.
That would be,
He can route me to others.
yeah. That's
There'd
great,
probably be some undergrads who would love to have.
Yeah.
It's a line on their, their resume, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
They can say they
Yeah.
helped guide this or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
implement.
I mean, just think of all the stuff that would just happen with the Leaf campaign, everything from writing a PSA, so much,
Project management.
so much work, to like just, writing a page on the website, yeah. So
Mhm.
every little bit of help is great.
Yeah,
There
I
have
can
been different
reach out.
groups historically that have been involved from the university.
Yeah,
Um,
I'll reach out to my contact
but I
to,
don't know if they all
Route.
those classes still are there.
Yeah.
They're different.
okay. I think I'm just gonna, Tim, is there anything you'd like to say, or Ken, or Nan about that, really? I think we'll have some bigger news soon, but yeah.
Yeah.
All right, excellent. Let's go on then to discussion and possible action on our autumn campaign, the Leaf Management Program. Leaf Free Streets and Adopt a Storm Drain. Jamie, I do so much talking at these meetings. Would you be interested in sharing a little bit about what happened there this autumn in Monona?
yes, and I will have gaps of knowledge.
That's
but,
okay.
So Leaf Free Streets and Adopt a Storm Drain, there's been a lot of messaging through various channels, radio, Facebook, website. I don't know numbers in terms of like if we're recording who's participating in each, but we talked about this yesterday at our subcommittee meeting.
Yeah.
This huge number of touch points with the public. 300?
About 300, we figure. Yeah.
Yeah, so this was a really, I think, successful run of this work in terms of getting people excited about it. And like just it, it brings a lot of fun to the learning, and we gave them an in with the coloring contest and name a leaf truck contest as well. And we're sure to embed throughout like useful tactical knowledge in terms of how to keep leaves out of the streets, why it's important, keeping our lake clean. And so now we have winners. We have 3 names chosen.
Did you see those?
Shall I state those names?
Yeah,
they're
hilarious.
So 3 of our leaf trucks were named by popular vote. Keanu Leaves, Mr. Snuffleupagus. And I mean, it really looks like a Snuffleupagus with the, it's great. And then, Frau Lieferhosen. So super fun. And just a way to get people interested, engaged in learning more. So we're gonna have these magnetic, kind of like, hello, my name is tags on the sides of our 3 leaf trucks. Hopefully this encourages people to get excited about like being a part of the process and following those rules. And we're gonna have an event at the drop-off site.
The Public Works Garage.
Yeah, Public Works Garage, and the coloring contest winners as well as grades. It's like K through 4.
Yeah,
I can't, is it 6
K
winners? Or
through 5. Yeah,
through 5.
yeah.
Yeah, so a handful of winners, really amazing art that was contributed. And the kids will get to come and hang out and maybe sit in the leaf truck and have a little educational opportunity. This will be the day before Thanksgiving next week, so it's in good time because it's starting to snow and rain and get icky, and now we're like hitting the moment, so
Yeah,
it was a big lift and a lot of fun. Big community thing, so that was a lot of talking, but
it was perfect.
Oh, great.
It was nice to, this autumn, it's nice, what I really appreciated about this idea that came to fruition was that we could measure it a little more than we've been able to measure in the past. You know, it's just so
Yeah.
hard to know, like, are we getting through? Are people changing their behavior?
Well, that's what actually I wanted to clarify. What is a touch point, what do you consider a touch point? An individual that you've hit or
A conversation
Conversation.
or
Okay,
a interaction,
yeah,
email,
like
phone.
are we counting any of the just
The votes.
submissions?
The submissions,
and the
the votes, yeah.
We did a tabling event at the Fall Fest
yeah.
and had a lot of interactions
Okay,
there.
so something that reflects you've
Yeah.
actually connected with somebody and they've,
Mhm.
yeah, had.
And
had a
there's some
conversation.
probably uncounted, like folks picking up coloring contests at the
Right.
library or
Right,
the, like,
right.
there's a lot more to it. And all the radio announcements, there's no way to
Way
really
to know,
tell.
yeah, right.
how many
Who
people
heard
that reached.
Right.
And the educational content that went along with it, so that's
Yeah.
really cool.
One thing that I'm embarrassed we didn't think about it. Thor, could you get the stats from the website to see how many hits were on that web page? That's so obvious. I can't
Yeah,
believe we didn't
yeah,
think of
I
that.
don't know.
Yeah, I mean, how many visitors to that website? That would have been
I'll
pretty
see if I
easy
can,
thing
I
to
don't know if
measure.
we,
Yeah.
if we can get that data.
Oh,
I'll take a look.
IT person says yes, you can. All right. Fantastic. Final steps of the project is just to document the lessons learned so that we can see if we want to do it next year. Cool. Excellent. Thank you so much. That takes us to like the winter campaign, raising salt awareness. Honestly, I mean, this campaign is shovel ready. It doesn't require much. It's just really repeating the same PSAs, newsletter articles. It's not a lot of work, and I don't think we need to put a terrific amount of work into it. I will say that Kristen presented at the most recent what is it
MESBA.
called? It's from MESBA, but it's called something else, educational, something government business coming together. Edger, yeah, each letter stands for something.
Yeah.
She had a really nice presentation at the library. She put so much work into it. It was wonderful. Just trying to get some of those business folks to, I don't know, become a little bit more aware of the things that they can do on their own property. What are are there any thoughts about, I know Jamie, you said you could dedicate a few, hours to this. Honestly, I know you just are exhausted coming off of the Leave campaign, I'm sure you are.
I'm a little tired. Well, between that and work and toddlers.
I know, you've got a lot going on, and I know that Kristen will be helping out with this. And I don't know what Ashley's schedule looks like, because I know you're kind of at a busy point too. I know that Kristen and Ashley were sort of the original folks who really spearheaded this. I'm thinking like minimal effort. Minimal, like just reuse everything we already have, just recycle it. It's enough. Does that sound doable? Okay, great. Next. Rick, do you have an update on the Next Trex plastic recycling program? Looks like you brought some props with you tonight.
Show and tell. This is the box. We get 3 of these. And so the challenge will be trying to find locations for those. They aren't as big as I thought they were gonna be, which is good, makes it easier. These might be supplemented with other types of collection devices. But it's nice the way it's labeled. And it gives people a little bit better idea of all the things that are recyclable other than just plastic bags. There's wrappings, things that you wrap your bottled water in, things that you wrap your other produce in and food bags. So there's a long list, and I was just talking with someone at the senior center who lives in McFarland, and in McFarland, where this program has been very successful, they have little takeaways, little cards that you can put on your refrigerator to help you figure out what's recyclable.
That's
So the Lions Club is all in. We've got some pretty dynamic volunteers who are willing to do the collection and weighing, and then bringing it just to Madison Metro. That's more of a funnel point for collecting all of these plastic bags. So that's the same program. But wherever we do put these would be in a directory on the Next Tracks website. So people can find these if they just go to that website. I believe our part of the process would be to help publicize this, but until we actually get these in the locations where they're gonna go, I don't see where we'd want to do any more publicity until we just firm up where these things are gonna go. So that's where we're at right now, is trying to find locations for these. And then we can start the educational campaign so people know where they are, what's recyclable. And then it's the Lions Club who, since they're doing the Lions worth of the project in terms of collecting, they will be the one, after they collect 1,000 pounds, to figure out where this bench is. So after you collect 1,000 pounds, you get a product from Next Track, one of their outdoor benches. And they'll be the ones to award that. So it comes with posters. So I think we'll be able to use some of these graphics. They're on their website too. So when it comes time to doing things for the eating newsletter and other Facebook posts, we'll be able to use some of these graphics to make it user friendly.
That's fantastic.
Rick, you said we're working to find places. Those efforts started, or are you looking for suggestions or what?
Well, here's where we're at with that. I'm kind of testing the waters with some locations like at the senior center or maybe the community center room, that first floor. Also, there's a possibility, I've talked to the library director about having a recycle bin out there. They have several recycle bins for tetracycle or TerraCycle. We would have another one there for plastic bags and film. So those are 2 possible locations. I think they're very likely. The next step is try to find things in the larger community and local businesses. And I've talked to Christine, who is the director from MESBA. And we're gonna, she's aware of the program. Teresa's emailed her, I emailed her. So she's gonna put out the word, but we'll try to get a article into their newsletter to try to find someone who'd be willing to host this. But if you have suggestions or.
These things have lids,
Yes,
boxes.
no, yeah, they have like, I just didn't
Oh,
fully
they kind
assemble
of-
it, but,
Yeah, I know what you, yeah, okay.
and so,
I mean, so many of these things are grocery related. It seems like having one in front of Metro Market with a bunch of Tacoma business
have-
cards.
They have some
They have-
inside.
they have them now in their,
Yeah.
but yeah, these are food related, that's true. But people have like a bag of bags in their house and they collect all these things.
What about like in the foyer of the schools, like when the moms and dads drop off their kids, they just take a bag? And I don't know,
Yeah, I could check
would
with
that
that.
be?
You want high traffic places that people will see it and will be willing to
Yeah,
Right.
bring it back.
High traffic.
I don't know, it's community center, high traffic.
no,
They have, you
Centrally
know,
located.
collection bins there now.
it is.
The senior
Yeah.
center is more high traffic. I would
Yeah.
rather
It
have it
is?
downstairs.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I mean, they get people in and out of their regular basis.
Yes.
for program.
Okay,
But and you know, weekly, you know, playing pinochle or whatever.
Post office?
Post office.
I don't know,
Do the
just thinking like,
schools-
how can people do like a two birds with one stone situation when they're
Right.
running errands, like,
That's
I gotta run to the post office, let me grab my bags too.
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't know, that might need a congressional act,
Yeah, right,
Congress
probably.
to
Never
put
mind.
that in there.
And against all policy.
20 years later.
But you know, one of the women suggested maybe Tully's, you know, that kind of thing, because she works there. I don't know. So that's the next challenge is finding locations.
Do the schools have?
Schools?
Schools, yeah.
Yeah, someone said schools, we could check.
I know, that I had, actually was having kids, separate their garbage into 3 bins. And they learned it, I mean, these are second, third, fourth graders. They were learning it in 2 days. They got exactly where they put it.
Yeah. Yeah,
So, and I don't know if the plastic has to be rinsed out, then that wouldn't be possible so much, but
you don't want it wet at all. They don't want it.
Yeah,
anywhere in
see, so that maybe wouldn't fit as well
Yeah.
with like a cafeteria.
Right,
Assuming they have
right, yeah,
plastic, right.
after it's been used for food or anything.
No, okay.
Rick, did you say that Metro Market has already, for sure,
Yeah.
they've got that, or is it a different program?
It's a different.
No, they're on the Next Trucks directory.
Oh, they are,
And
okay,
they're part of this transshipment thing where they bale these into really large size blocks.
so Metro Market is kind of the feeder, like,
Feeder.
we put it out into the Monona
Yeah.
and then it all feeds into Metro
Yeah.
Market,
Feeds into Metro.
Okay.
so
And
we
then they have this
okay,
big trailer truck in the back that they fill up and then periodically ship to Next Track.
But they also have the bin inside.
They
yeah,
have the bins
Drop off
inside where the
the
cards are now. So they're very similar to this.
So who's getting their benches?
yeah, really.
Whoa, I don't know.
Good question.
Be careful on benches so much.
We have a place for a bench.
What if,
Do you?
can we,
Landmarks.
I think this is going off the rails.
Sorry.
Ashley's on another committee that yeah, anyway,
All right.
crazy.
Moving on.
So,
Ken's out there too. Just one more.
what's that?
Ken's Meat Market.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Oh,
and I was thinking like the community center, maybe not, I mean, this, yes, the senior center, but now that all the kids from the after school program are over at the Maywood Elementary School, I
Right.
wonder if Missy would just allow that to be like in the foyer.
Mhm.
Cause the moms and dads,
Moms and
when
dads,
moms and
yeah.
dads
Pick up.
bring kids to school, they just pull up in the car.
yeah,
But
so
when they
Lizzie's
pick
on my
up
list.
kids,
Yeah.
they go in the building.
Yeah, especially.
So they would just,
Sure.
that's pretty high
I think it'd be good
traffic.
to work with parks, and maybe, can we allow them to move them around, like in the summer, once there's no after school, so have it at the pool, the
Oh.
pickleball courts.
They're
Plus,
thinking there.
plus there's indoor pickleball over at Maywood Elementary now. So it's. the-
Indoor?
Yeah,
Oh.
the traffic is
Interesting.
really picking up over there.
Yeah, and they got more than enough room for
They have a
everything.
lot of room, yeah.
All right, Missy is on my list.
Missy, yeah, talk to Parks, that's a,
Two,
I mean, Tully's, the restaurant, I get it, like the Mesbah, volunteer that you're working with has a connection to Tully's, but the number of people that go into the community centers, I mean, you just wanna get really high traffic.
high traffic, that's the.
Is there a charge for each of the boxes?
No.
Oh, and you can have as many as you want.
No. I didn't get 3.
Oh, so then maybe.
I think that's gonna be the problem with placing them at a private business. right?
Yeah,
there's
'cause if then
only
if you go-
30 and one private business gets it and nobody else does.
Yeah, that's the thing, that's why,
Okay, what if,
if all, so are you saying all we get are 3 boxes in the whole city of Monona?
Well, 3 of these, but like I've said, there are other possible containers.
Oh, okay,
So if we wanna match what Parks has now in that community center room, we would have to purchase a box that would fit in with what they've already got, but there is room for something like that there.
so we get 3 like that,
We get these,
but you can
right.
use any box, you put a poster on the front of any box.
Exactly.
And it becomes a collection box,
Exactly.
okay,
Exactly,
got it.
so we can, have a greater impact with add additional boxes.
Thank you for all your work on this.
You're welcome. It'll be nice when it's actually, and you can see the numbers like
Yeah,
50 pounds.
yeah,
200.
yeah.
Yeah.
What does 50 pounds of plastic
Yeah, I
bags
was
even
gonna
look
say,
like?
I was
Like,
just-
it fills up this whole, I don't know, yeah.
Well, those bales that they make, which are several feet in dimension, are 1,000-pound bales.
Wow.
They have machinery that they actually compress this stuff together before they ship it. So you can see what 1,000 pounds
You can
is.
see that.
I'll get a picture for you.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, I'm gonna move on then. Let's go then to number 5, letter E. Discussion and possible action on a possible demolition material recycling ordinance. And I think, really quick discussion, the question on the table is, I think you may recall that there was a member from the Landmarks Commission, Rebecca Holmquist, that came to talk about how the city of Monona has a lot of demolition because we're a landlocked community. And so before anything is built, something often has to be removed. And the point of her presentation was the difference between demolition and deconstruction. Deconstruction being the very careful dismantling and repurposing of the materials rather than just taking a big wrecking ball and turning it into a landfill contribution. We brought this up at the Landmarks Commission meeting and one of the because there's such an interesting overlap between preservation and conservation, right? And one of the members on the committee said we might want to look at what Madison has on their books for an ordinance, because Madison seems to have a very rigid and well-written deconstruction ordinance that we could look at and adopt. He said he's heard about it because he hears developers grumbling about it all the time, but it doesn't stop development. It doesn't, it just, people just have to be,
Right.
they behave a little differently, that's all. So the question is really like, how much work is this? Is there any capacity to take this on? Is there any interest in taking on this, exploration of the Madison ordinance, comparing it to our own ordinance? Seeing what can be done there. Again, it's work. I know we're all stretched thin. But just put that out there, if that's something that,
I mean, it seems like the work from our end would be relatively trivial.
because the ordinance is already written.
Well, right, yeah, so the real work is enforcing it, so who enforces this let's say we somehow get the city to adopt this, who polices it?
Yeah, it's all on you, Sora. Well, my understanding is that Madison has a recycling coordinator. And that falls under their umbrella of duties,
know that.
and they collaborate with, building inspection and planning.
Yeah.
To enforce that, so that's an advantage Madison has, so I think that's where the sustainability committee could come in and your work, if this is a priority, is to work, do the research for what possible ordinances could look like and work with city staff to, find out what an enforcement mechanism might look like for a more resource constrained community. So, our strategy might not be exactly what Madison does to, any demolition above, I think it's based on, you know, a certain size of building essentially. Maybe we have to be more selective about it, or we, you know, pursue that it's tied to TIF funding or something else, so. Yeah, I would say something like Madison's ordinance would probably be pretty difficult to enforce for Monona. Maybe even impossible to enforce. But, you know, we'd have to have conversations with city administrator and with planning director and.
It's my
So
understanding.
I don't want to like question the merits of recycling demolition material. I get that the rationale behind that. I will say, you know, for the tech college, we do a fair number of construction projects that have to get permitted by the city, and nothing going through the city process happens fast. It slows everything down. You know, you have to submit plans ahead of time to comply with their recycling ordinance, and I'd be a little hesitant to just say we should bite off and copy their ordinance and adopt it for Monona. I'd be more interested in knowing if McFarland had an ordinance like this that they had implemented successfully on that scale, and that we're able to implement it there. And knowing, you know, some smaller municipalities that, you know, maybe don't have the level of bureaucracy as the city of Madison, that would be a better model for us to look at.
When I looked at this, the only ordinance I saw were Madison and Milwaukee. So I think you're more likely to find it in larger cities.
I thought there was something during our landmarks meeting that we were talking about possibility of it being somehow codified so that it would be like come before the plan commission. Did I get that wrong? Or it was like something like they're already submitting plans to the plan commission for approval. And so then it would just be another level that they'd have to be reviewing.
Yeah, but then there's the monitoring and enforcement aspect of that too.
Well, there'd be a cost to the developer in developing a recycling plan. And then it would be up to the city to review that and make sure that it's adequate and then maintain any kind of oversight. So my sense of it is right now the city is trying to do its level best to try to figure out how to be more efficient so they can keep up with everything that their staff has to do now. So I think politically, it would be a hard sell to have the council approve adding on to what is already kind of what I consider overloaded schedules. I don't know, Teresa, you
I
see that? Am I wrong?
No. I guess I was thinking that maybe we just start by asking Neil. And maybe Doug.
Yeah, I think that's a strategy, instead of,
See
you know,
what they think.
starting this from, let's like take Madison's ordinance and tailor it to
Yeah.
Monona, it's how do we build a deconstruction program that works for
us.
Monona.
Yeah,
Well, and I'd be willing to see if there are some other small communities, maybe not even in Wisconsin, just, you know, in the area that have similar types of ordinances as a starting point,
that would be great, just like
so that it's not
do some
this.
Google research, yeah.
what would be the impact? I mean, it doesn't sound like Ken is much of a fan of the one in Madison. But you know, looking at this as the larger community really is, you know, with McFarland and all these, I mean, is there any way that it would make sense to get all those communities together to have this one
Within the Wisconsin
with it in the.
coalition of.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
For climate change, yes, I mean, I'm sure they do this kind of stuff, right,
I
so.
mean, part of it is decarbonizing buildings, it might be part of something that they
There's
have.
a lot of stored
access
carbon
to.
in existing buildings
Yeah.
that gets, yeah,
So does that bring us back to?
Where we started.
it's like Seinfeld.
Is that on the agenda? Talk.
We haven't talked about.
There's a lot of questions of how much of the deconstructed building do you want to recycle too, right? Like
Right.
there's some low hanging fruit, like get all the copper out of there that's valuable, right? That
Yeah,
probably happens already.
Yeah.
And then there's, all right, are we going after reclaiming wood? Are we gonna reclaim glass? Are we gonna recycle the concrete, right? Like, these things get progressively more difficult to do depending on how deep you want to get into the building materials and how much of that content you want to recover. So I think that's where, I'd just be reluctant to adopt somebody else's ordinance
Yeah.
without really thinking it through clearly and deciding how much we can
Absolutely.
actually implement for Monona,
Yeah.
Does it make sense just to start the conversation with Neil? And who else would we start the conversation?
Yeah,
with?
it'd be Neil and Doug.
Neil and
and-
Doug, our city administrator, and then our city planner. Who also works with Plan Commission and the
And
CDA.
CDA, yeah.
What are the questions so if Thor and I were to meet with them, what are the questions we would want answered? So Ken says, let's find out
What's
what
worth
we
recycling?
already recycle. Let's find out what already is happening, right?
Mhm.
Does anything else come up that you'd like us, or we should ask?
I mean, it sounded like a capacity question.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and if, do we want to, what strategy would we want to take to incentivize deconstruction, to
Mhm.
mandate deconstruction, to just educate about deconstruction? All have different impacts and require different
Yep.
levels of staff resources,
Mhm.
and impose different levels of costs on developers.
I mean, a benefit of Madison already having a really robust program is that there are already places to have these things recycled that make it easier as a small community adjacent to such a robust program, might make it easier for us to kind of shoehorn into those services that already are existing.
Yeah, and the contractors who are working on projects in Monona probably have experience working in Madison or
Right.
Milwaukee.
Yeah, they get to know and they're like, thank God we don't have to recycle. Cause we just had to do that in Madison, and we already know how to do it, cause we just had to do it in Madison, but Monona's not gonna make us do it.
I think there's a question to be asked about like what types of projects this would apply to as well, right?
Right.
Like, is there a certain size threshold, a certain square footage threshold, above which it makes sense to do this, and then below which you're getting to such a small project that you're not recovering a whole lot of material, and you're, burning up more money and hauling stuff back and forth and burning petrol and labor than you are recovering valuable materials. So, I mean, I think that's
Yeah.
also, if we're concerned about staff time, that's another way to keep this manageable from an enforcement standpoint is, it applies to certain projects as so many square feet and up or something like that.
Yeah, and I think it's a prudent time to have this conversation, with Plan Commission recently approved the Top Golf proposal, and that's gonna require the demolition of a pretty sizable office park. And then at their meeting this upcoming Monday, there's a proposal to redevelop River Place and that office park there. So if those projects are financially viable and they move forward to the construction phase, those are some pretty big demolitions that are happen in the not too distant future.
Would be interesting to see if it could apply to landmark buildings, since they might have decorative features or unique materials.
Mhm.
So they wouldn't necessarily meet that scale, but they might be prime for salvage of some
Yeah.
architectural features. Cypress wood, something.
Yeah,
So Ashley, I'm sure that, well, you know Rebecca already, the two of you could just work together on this. Thank you so much. It's wonderful. All right. Fantastic. I'm gonna move on. New business. We had the presentation from the WLGCC that Allison shared with us, and now let's move on to 6B, discussion and possible action on membership. So just from the small comments during the presentation, it sounded that people were feeling good about that. What are some thoughts?
I mean, outside of the time commitment, it doesn't sound like there are a lot of negatives to being a member.
yeah, to me, it doesn't sound like a tremendous time commitment.
Right.
You know, especially if they're not really strict about joining the work group meetings, and then those are bi-monthly, so that's pretty small, and then, you know, once a month, an hour meeting, some webinars, you know, that's. I think the benefits outweigh the costs there, certainly.
Are you saying that as someone who's the staff member to
Yes.
this committee?
Person to likely, you know, be the representative for that. And maybe it would be Brad, but I think he joins a lot of the Dane County meetings, and I think this would be likely it would be me.
I think it actually could end up being a time saver, you know, if we look at
Yeah.
the example like with No Mow May and also with this tree planting thing. It's a lot easier to replicate something that somebody else has already done and borrow from their ideas than it is to create from whole cloth. And if we have a network of 20-some municipalities that we can borrow ideas from, that may save us a lot of time and effort on future initiatives. So yeah, I'd be in support.
It's a great selling point for, I presume we have to run this by city council, is that where this would go?
Yeah, so
Probably ask Brad too.
He brought it to us, so.
yeah, the committee could make a recommendation that city council pass a resolution to join the coalition.
Are there limits to who can be our representative? I mean, if someone here wanted to be a representative, that'd be a problem.
Sounded like she said you could have two people, like an alternative.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it could be
I mean,
anyone.
yeah. Okay.
So, yeah, we might have to have that conversation with Neil, see who that would be.
Okay.
Uh,
So, do we need a formal vote?
Yeah, let's do a formal vote so that we can, you know, show it to council.
So I'll take a motion to have the city of Monona join the Wisconsin Local Government Climate Coalition.
I so move.
Move from Ashley, is there a second?
Second.
From Tim, oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
So
That's
small.
fine.
All in favor?
I.
Opposed? Motion passes, okay, so we took a vote, it passed, and then Thor, you wanna run that past Neil, or I'm happy to be involved in that
Yeah, so
conversation as well.
upcoming council schedule would be December 2nd, potentially for first read of a resolution, and then December 16th.
We need a resolution,
They had a boilerplate tonight.
Yeah. That's what she said, right? There's
She
a,
did.
yeah,
Jim.
and what did you say that would have been?
so upcoming council meetings are December 2nd and 16th.
Yes, they are December
so-
2nd and 16th, you're gonna
We're good with
be
you.
right in the middle of the
Yeah, so
baby.
maybe for the second read, it could be you, or maybe we, you know, hold out till January, but.
Can't you zoom from the hospital?
Yeah.
Seriously. You could do priorities, you know what I'm saying? And seriously, it's the second kid, we all know that nobody cares about the second.
Yeah, don't even get their own room.
They don't even.
Hand me down.
Oh my God. So, okay, so December 2nd and 16th at the very fastest.
Yeah,
All right, wonderful, fabulous. So I'm gonna move on then. Number 6, letter C, discussion of committee duties and responsibilities. I just asked Thor to put this on the agenda, just because I wanna make sure that the folks on this committee feel good about the duties and responsibility of being on the committee, and sometimes it can be something where people say, well, you know, I want to be a part of the sustainability committee and just advise, you know, I don't have time to be on a work group, you know, so I just wonder where people are at with that, and if it feels like too much, or if it feels like the right amount of work. This is sort of has sort of turned into over the years, sort of more of a community outreach committee. And I know we also want to move the needle on bigger things too, so it's hard to balance like what we do. There's been some really good, I think, very promising movement toward those larger things that we can talk about toward the end of the meeting, or I'll just bring it up now. We joined the Soul Smart program, which is great. I think that's gonna help tremendously to review some ordinances and maybe open the doors a little bit more for solar development. We've had some interest from a grad student program. The Energy Analysis Policy Program has some opportunities for maybe some grad students to work on energy roadmaps for us, right? We put out the RFP to, to understand what it would cost to get an energy roadmap. So we are sort of moving the needle on those bigger energy programs. And now with perhaps membership in the Wisconsin Local Government Climate Coalition, we can tap into more opportunities there, but there still are those other outreach programs. So I guess I just wanted to make sure that everyone's still okay with it, that's all. And I know that Sue and I have had conversations about time and how it's hard to find
Well, I've
time
had
to
a
do
lot of
things.
issues.
It's like, yeah,
Kind of overwhelming.
it's a lot. You're busy, you got a lot
No,
going on,
it's-
a lot going on in your life. Yeah.
Many things ahead. So,
Teresa, I
involuntary.
guess I'm not understanding the question. I don't know if I'm not.
I guess
wanna-
I just wanted to make sure that the members are okay with
The expectations.
the
generally.
expectations in general of it being more of a work group. That there's a balance of working and advising, whereas a lot of other. And if you don't sit on other committees, you maybe wouldn't know this, but I'll just throw out public safety, for example, right? There's really no work between meetings if you're on the public safety committee. You show up to the meeting once a month. Are you public safety? Yeah. The chiefs, give you
Report.
a report. Sometimes there are questions that they ask and they get your input and then they move forward. Right, the same with like Public Works.
Right.
So these are
Probably
two
the biggest thing is reviewing.
major,
budget.
departments within the city of Monona, major, budget, like should we buy a police car, should we buy a dump truck, things like that.
Okay.
It's advising on stuff like that, yeah.
We don't have like a full-time sustainability officer.
Correct,
That seems to
correct.
be the difference.
Exactly. They have a fire chief, they have a police
Yeah,
chief,
so
we have,
grassroots
we
it,
have Thor working part-time, right?
yeah.
So it's kind of exactly it, Jamie, okay, great. I just didn't want people to feel burned out, that's all, so.
I will say like I am I'm brand new, all geared up about the working groups. I think it's great. We've been with the fall campaign, it's been every week, 30-minute meetings. It's great that we can do them remotely
teaching,
because
yeah.
I'm like sitting at my desk, like just popping off of regular work and that's great. I think I do need to like keep it at these 30-minute.
Yeah.
Sometimes we go over a little bit
Yeah.
and it gets tricky because I run into like kid pickup and stuff. So
I
like
agree.
I'm there for it, but like for each subcommittee, let's set expectations within it. And make it work.
I'm taking notes, thank you.
It's all good.
And I guess I'm trying to make sure I'm playing good in the sandbox here. Are you saying that you want the expectation of committee membership to be that people are going to be in work groups and work? Or are you saying, I want to take the temperature and not overstress, and if we need to de-escalate the burden of work, that we all need to collectively agree on that?
Maybe I'm trying to say both. I think there is an expectation. And I also want to make sure that people are okay with that expectation,
It makes sense. I mean, I think,
Yeah.
but personally, I'd love to hear it if I'm not pulling my weight.
You're a slacker. too.
But I think you're also saying that for everyone collectively, we have to kind of agree what our mission is and which we want.
Yeah.
This is that way.
Yeah. Well put.
But I think there is a danger if we're gonna take on new initiatives related to the tree planting and also the energy, road mapping, energy footprint reduction, like we may get spread too thin at some point, right?
Right.
And trim our
Exactly.
sails somehow or another and let some things go,
No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, do we need to triage and do like a group sessions just specifically on prioritization of what is gonna have the biggest impact from this committee and what needs to drop and just do some, yeah,
Maybe like some strategic planning every year, like at the start of the year or something, like here's what we're gonna do or not do. and
yeah,
here's
and
what we
maybe be
drop
okay
off.
with some cuts.
Yeah, yeah,
Maybe
Yeah.
some of that stuff just kind of happens naturally too, if
kind of,
It
if
is-
someone,
it
if someone
will
doesn't
effort.
have the energy to push forward a project and they're on the work group and it kind of flounders, it'll
yeah,
it'll get fall back in line and things
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
So, you know, are people really excited about and push forward, it'll
Yeah.
get over the finish line, so some of that'll happen.
that's true.
I
Yeah,
don't know if we need to over engineer it.
And some of it, we've kind of tried to just like make a template, like the winter salt, it's done. There's nothing you need to do, just pass out more bookmarks, record more PSAs, and now our autumn campaign is kind of shovel ready. Well, it's still a lot of work though.
it's
Yeah,
a chunk of work.
it's a lot of work, yeah.
And I
And we
think-
don't have to run it every year.
Or we could just do like a pared down version
Right.
sometimes, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just like an effort impact balance.
Yeah,
It seems
Yeah.
like we haven't gotten to like a critical point of having like a certain number of projects. Like a lot of the projects since I've been on the committee have been new projects. There haven't been a lot of sustained, other than the
Like
energy,
programs,
but like
right.
programs like the Leaf Free Streets program is new.
right.
The salt program is new, the Bee and Butterfly Brigade work and all, you know, the ordinance to pass all of the new
Mhm.
lawn, or like it's all been all new, which is, to me, it's great, but also like once we have some of those things, on the one hand, we can look at our year and say, do we want new stuff, and how many of these things, like you said, are shovel ready, we can just easily pass, or like how many new projects do we want to take on? And then also when we're taking on new projects, like can any of those be translated to some, like have a built-in plan to translate those to either community members, like a friends of group, or you know, like the plastics, those are going to the Lions Club. So
Yeah.
like, will we have to do anything with that in the future? Or you know, with the trees,
Yeah.
maybe that ends up with Public Works and we just help them create the package that they
Mhm.
needed to get moving with it. So we have maybe the idea is to like build in an end of life plan for each of these, if we're going to keep it or if we're going to try and move it forward with someone else.
That's really well put.
I think the other thing we should kind of consider is trying to make these decisions based on some sort of metrics or data that we can establish for each of these initiatives. You know, some of the things lend themselves pretty easily to that, like the electronics recycling, right? As long as people keep bringing us electronics to recycle, we should keep doing that. But when we see that the demand is going away and evaporating, well, then we can wind that initiative down. I think the tree planting will be an easy one too, because you can just count how many trees you have and how big a wait list you have. Some of the other ones we have, it's a little harder, but we have like the touchstone or the touch point data for the leaf thing and how many kids entered the coloring contest and stuff like that. And as long as we can try and collect some data for each of these initiatives, we have a way of knowing whether they're successful and whether they're growing or shrinking and whether they can be phased out, or we just plant our flag and claim that we've met our goals and we're done, sort of thing,
Or also put on automatic pilot through whatever system that's the
right,
streets, or that it's handed out to a community group, like even a middle school group or something, that where they can actually learn something along with following the exact kind of plan. I don't know, just I agree with you. I just think we can't keep adding these things.
I think if we have some measures of success, that makes it easier to hand something off too, right? It makes it easier for somebody to be interested in adopting it, knowing that they have a constituency that's already bought into this initiative. And then it gives them a way of measuring whether or not they're successful if they take over the project, so.
That's true.
The other thing, in that context of, are we growing too much? Are we doing too much? Are we stressing? The city just passed by 32 votes, a budget expansion. We operate on a $2,000 budget and a quarter of your time. Is that right? Or
Yeah, a little less.
is there any way we are a squeaky wheel and ask for 32% of Thor, or or some expansion of our footprint, more money, which can buy more bandwidth for someone that's not a volunteer to help on some of these things. Just bringing up an idea.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's one of the committees, we've added it to the top of the agenda for every city committee and board. Your duties and responsibilities as spelled out in the ordinance. You know, one of your responsibilities is to recommend to council sustainability programs and policies. So if you have budgetary, you know, if we do some strategic planning, we identify a bigger cause that we want to take on, it's very appropriate for the committee to, you know, make a budget proposal. We'll bring it to council during the budget season. And we can argue for that.
So we've got, you know, 7 or whatever, 5 ongoing projects and another one that we really want to join that we just put an ordinance suggestion for.
Yeah.
That would be an ask of you, you know, in that same breath, after you go back from baby. You know, time do we,
But you're gonna take some time off. Right?
No.
do we, you know,
Get back in.
is this a time that we
You're
ask
gonna be gone for
the
a
city
while.
for
We'll talk about it. But
more Thor time, and is this of course, if that's something that you want.
Even wants,
to,
right,
of
right,
course not.
right.
But I'm just thinking about building our infrastructure and our throughput.
Yeah,
Maybe Teresa and Thor talk offline about that.
yeah, yeah. It's hard to know sometimes what to do, yeah.
yeah, if we go that route, we would probably want to show, you know, have a strategic plan, like here's what we want to accomplish in 2025 and 2026, and here's why we would need more resources than we have right now to get there.
Have a bit of a segue, but it's on agenda item 8.
Mhm.
I think we're ready to,
Yeah, we can jump ahead.
I don't want to pass 7 though.
Well,
There's
why don't
anything.
I think we've kind of wrapped up just to wrap up this topic, I was hearing things like, as we move forward, think about how we build in end of life planning for the projects that we take on. Choose projects that we can measure. I think something else that maybe it wasn't said just now, but I said it at the beginning of the meeting is maybe just how do we bring in other people to sort of take the work off of our plates and really even push our projects further out and empower other community members. That would be kind of nice. Was there anything else that we want to consider as we're looking forward and deciding about how we spend our time and how we prioritize our work? If you can think of anything, feel free to.
Is there a bottom line of like, to be on this committee, you should be in like at least one working group?
I think that's the expectation.
Okay.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the last article that was put in the e-newsletter, it was a sort of a call for committee members. There was an opening on the committee and it just came out and said, you know, the expectation is that you'll be participating in community outreach programming. Yeah. Good. All right. Great. Should we move on? Move on?
Sure.
I'm gonna go to number 7, DEI discussion items for project programs, policies for budget consideration for council advisement. Was that what you were?
No, I
You're gonna
do.
wait?
She was an 8.
Yeah, I don't have anything specific for number 7, but just a bit of an update for the next item.
Okay. Why don't we just move on then? Number 8, important updates from community members or items to consider for future agendas. Jamie.
Okay, so this is just a really brief share out. It's there's a email on in the packet at the very end related to outreach that I had with the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant Program. Long acronym that I won't repeat, but this was an opportunity offered by Natural Resources. And no, NREL. Ken knows. Anyway, I had reached out to see about technical assistance opportunities for sustainability plan development for City of Monona. Because I know it's come up before and you all have put out an RFP and it hasn't gone anywhere yet, but it's still an ambition that we have. So I wanted to look into funding resources to support that. We don't qualify for this one, so it's just some of the back and forth. It's at the county level, I believe, and at a higher population level. But they got back to me with some other offerings, and I just did a read through of some of these and kind of assessed. It's this bulleted list. From what I can see, the first one is not quite needed. It's more about adding in just expertise, which we have that everywhere. What we're really looking for is more of like a dedicated full-time staff person to create, run, make this whole energy plan just amazing for the city and run it. So that's not super relevant. Second one, not likely a great fit. It's a great learning opportunity, but again, not quite what we're it's more like workshop sessions that it just seemed like we're good, we've got a
Okay.
lot. The OCED exchange funding opportunities were really interesting. We don't quite fit their priority applicant criteria. I'm also unsure if we're considered rural. We are below 10K, but I don't know that we are technically rural.
Probably not.
Yeah, probably not.
And then I'm gonna look into this other DOE funding database opportunities and just explore that a little bit. That next bullet, and then the additional opportunities that they say are listed on this block grant site. Again, I'll explore those. And then there's nothing currently open at the state level. So I looked through all those opportunities. I'm not seeing anything. So this is just a long-winded way to say I have my eyes open for funding opportunities around this, and I'm gonna keep prodding because I think this has a potential to be really impactful. And if we had more dollars in the door, we could do something big. So talk to me if you wanna talk to me about it. Yeah, thank you. You're welcome.
Kind of related, updated from committee members related to the tree program. Searching for funding, we don't have anything official yet, but I do have a sense that, the program you mentioned, maybe 15, 20 trees, Teresa. I have a anonymous donor who would be interested in contributing if we are limited in size. For example, if people want pretty trees and we can't spend city resources, it would supplement up to a $5,000 level for more trees. So we should just keep that in mind as we start to pull that program up. Okay.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
How much does it cost?
Yeah, that's great. That's great news, Tim. Huh.
Like $120 or something.
So that's
So,
Yeah.
a fair number of trees.
yeah, I mean, there'd be some bandwidth from, city hours
Yeah.
and planting and stuff, but.
Great.
Could add to the size of it, so.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I have, I mentioned earlier, I spoke with a grad student from the Energy Analysis and Policy program, and as a capstone project, it may be possible for a group of grad students to do some work in building an energy roadmap for Monona. So I've asked Neil if it's, you saw the email, I've asked Neil if it's okay that the Thorn and meet and just, I wanted to get a list of questions that Neil needs the answers to before we agree to go ahead and do
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah, I don't think we heard back from him yet. but
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
okay, yeah. Okay, and then third, did you have an update on Soul Smart?
Yep, so Doug's been out of the office a lot the last couple of weeks with some health issues. So we've had to push a meeting a couple times, but we're meeting next week to go over the the report we received from Soul Smart of their review of our zoning code.
Oh, nice.
So at that meeting, Doug and I will kind of strategize how we wanna bring the review and proposed changes through sustainability and plan commission. So it should, something from Soul Smart should be on our agenda at our next
That's
meeting.
fantastic.
So expect that. And then related to budget, I was able to work with Dane County and they changed their mind and they have now charged us for that clean sweep event of $500. They were able to charge us in 2024, so we were able to use some of our remaining budget for that. So our 2024 budget's about $500 left now, and it frees us in 2025 for our marketing outreach materials quite a bit. So I think that's good news.
So we have about $500 yet to spend.
Yep.
In 2024.
Yep.
And then going into 2025, we have a full 2,000.
2,000. That's
I
right.
voted for that, you did too. We just voted for that.
Thanks, John.
Do we
Well,
actually need to spend our $500?
I've been trying to reach out to Brad to see if we could get moving on the Adopt a Storm Drain. He wants to rebrand the whole Adopt a Storm
Yeah.
Drain program and he might need like new marketing materials or signs or graphics. Can we pre-buy trees? Is that kind of,
I don't know.
I don't know if we can.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Otherwise, we had talked at one point about some signs for our native lawn landscapes or something. that
Right.
People could put out on the lawn, see if there's some kind of design that we wanted that
Yes.
signs provided to citizens who have something like that.
Like a natural lawn yard sign,
What's the ordinance call it?
a natural lawn.
Well, now it's planned natural landscape.
Planned
Yeah.
natural
Yeah.
landscape.
Right.
Yep. Planned
Yeah.
natural.
Point.
natural.
What about those don't be salty stickers?
We have a lot of
Yeah, a
those
lot
still,
of those.
yeah. Yeah, you were going bookmark.
Can I have one?
Stickers, yeah.
Just the person took.
They're awesome stickers. Ashley's artwork.
Those are.
I don't know if we're gonna go over
Yeah.
the patches. I don't know. I'm kind of losing steam on that. The hats.
I mean, we have the money, if we don't buy any yard signs till next year, we're gonna have the money for that. Certainly, but yeah, if we can use up the $500 for this year, that'd be great, we should. It's been allocated. And we don't have to make a decision tonight, the sustainability budget is technically, under the administrator's purview, so. Teresa, Rick, you can, make a request of him that we, spend it on something over the next couple of weeks and. We'll just get it charged to the right account.
Maybe look at past budgets and see what we've purchased in the past that could be useful. It's hard to just think on the spot without like a prompt.
Printing. It's basically a lot of printing.
Yeah.
Yeah, our big expenses are always. Yeah, printing materials and the e-cycle event of $400.
I'm wondering if the city of McFarland, going back to the recycling bins, has the information for the little
Oh,
paper things that we could order to go along with the boxes for people to take
Yeah.
home about what they can
Or if you
bring.
make the big sign.
Or if we
you
can
the
have a
copy.
flyer that we can print from that
Yeah,
program.
posters for that, or if you need another bin.
Do we need,
you know,
do we incur the cost for printing these?
Yeah, that's what I wanted this time.
we got 3 of those, but I don't
But we're
know.
gonna need
Well,
more.
maybe, yeah,
They have the graphic online, so we could print more if we want.
well, that's an
Which
expense though,
cost?
it's that cost.
That's what I'm
Good
saying.
cost. Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I was gonna.
Could you
Yeah.
print it as like a sticker, like so I have something on our recycling bin in the house that fits well on the can. That's like a full sticker of graphics of what you can and can't recycle.
For your recycling bin,
Yeah.
have something on the bin.
Could pull the.
Inside bin, not.
Oh, inside the house.
Yeah, so
Oh.
it's not like the style that everybody might want, but for us,
Right,
I
right,
like, I could see right
Well,
there.
no, and I think that's helpful for people.
Yeah.
Because, you're remembering where to put this, where to put that, after a while, it's like, okay.
Pelletier
where is
probably has something.
Can't remember where I got it, but it's like either Dane County or Madison or Pelletier or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
It exists somewhere.
We gotta
We've
make sure
got a
it's
sticker
current.
vendor. It's just getting a graphic. Are you saying for like what's recyclable in Monona or specifically for the recycle event?
Actually, yes, sorry, that would be great for just no at home.
At
But
home,
I'm
like-
thinking Pelletier would be who we want to go
Yeah.
through.
Yeah,
Well, it's something I've thought about, because Madison has something on the bins that tells you what's recyclable.
Right.
We don't.
Mhm.
And it does change, I think, that's the point.
Aren't we, there was something at the, we were
Sorry.
gonna spend some money on something that I just remembered and then I forgot. I thought we had an expense that we
What's
were,
those big poster things?
so the posters
Yeah.
for the next treks.
Flyers for next treks.
we still have the leaf truck decals.
Oh, that's what it was, the
Expense.
leaf truck decals, next trek
Ah,
posters,
those
fabulous. The hello, my name is
Yep. Yeah, right.
thing, yep. But that's only a couple hundred, but yeah, it's good.
I didn't follow, but for the leaf trucks, is there any signage on the side of the trucks, like another decal that could be put on, like I can't eat pumpkin or whatever else? Like while they're going down the street or
Choke on
whatever. that-
pumpkins.
You could just have a very simple like pumpkin with a line through it.
That's right.
Yes.
Right.
Maybe for next year.
It's too big.
So, I think we're being able to spell that money pretty easy.
All right, so I think we will,
Yeah.
we'll get it done. All right, in that case, I think we're toward the end of the meeting then. So
Yeah.
an hour and a half is a good amount of time. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Ashley, yes, the second by Rick, all in favor?
I.
Aye, thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Everyone.
Hi, Ken.